And on our live stream, we have a number of people from across the state who are members of North Dakota Professional Communicators. As an introduction, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dot. She was a busy farm wife and a mother who worked in the finance and insurance industry. When her almost perfect pretzel mix she tasted at a wedding gave her an idea to start her own company. She purchased a range of spices and set out to make a pretzel that was truly unforgettable, which obviously she did. She tinkered with the spices and developed Dot's home-style pretzels. She and her husband Randy began selling the pretzels in bags at gas stations and joined Pride of Dakota. And as you know, the company has experienced enormous marketing success and product expansion. She retained her title as founder of the company, but handed over the daily operations to a qualified team that helped propel Dots to the third largest pretzel company in the United States. Last December, the Hershey Company completed its $1.2 billion acquisition of Dots Pretzels, and Pretzels Incorporated, a co-manufacturer of the pretzels that Dots uses. So without any further ado, here's Dot.
Thank you very much. I'll start out with where I grew up. Back a little bit there. It's kind of a blurry picture, but I grew up in a dairy farm. We were just a little bit north of Wapaton, North Dakota. We also had pigs and chickens, a large garden, of course. And I had 3 brothers and I had 2 sisters. My oldest sibling is 14 years older than me. So I consider myself as the youngest being the oops. But never thought that while I was growing up. They didn't treat me like that. But I think I was an oops. My mother never told me that though. Okay, my cookbooks are all marked up. You go into my cookbooks and they are tweaked. But my mom and I cooked together for the holidays and prepared the food. We had 69 of us when my mom and us all got together. And she didn't use recipes. It was Dorothy, go do that. Dorothy, do this, Dorothy, do that. And she would finally come up with the thing. She'd smile, it's good. I don't remember the exact date, but I was at a wedding and they had a spicy Czech mix. But it was too spicy for myself. I do not like spice very much. I like the pretzel itself, and it had a buttery taste to it. I did find it at Menards, and with that, I did a lot of tweaking of the spices, and I shared with family and friends for years before we know it today as Dot's Homestyle Pretzel. People have asked me why. It wasn't anticipated, it wasn't a goal, it wasn't even a dream of doing this. It was something that seemed exciting when people would give you that look when they tasted it, the seasoned the pretzels, the expressions on their faces were priceless to us. The double look back at booths when I was at the trade shows, oh my God, and the stories that were told to us at each trade show and every phone call. Everybody always had another story. How we started was, it was the Christmas season, end of 2011. I made up Christmas bakes for a relative in Arizona because that's where we retired. We're snowbirds since 2009. And I put a pretty red bow on each one of those. Her clients called her and said, where can we buy more? Well, guess what? Had to get a hold of me. And from that, I went to flag football games, and I went to flag football games because of my son, Eric. He played football for Minot State. And yeah, and it was just, it was enough enthusiasm to keep us looking a little bit more to see if this is something that we wanted to do. But to find the butter spinzels in Arizona, we found them at Big Lots. So every Thursday morning, we would go in Arizona. We had our little route that had the butter spinzels there, and we picked them up at each and every Thursday morning. And it came to a part of that I'd walk in and they go, "Ah, the pretzel lady's here again." And I'd take everything that they had. And that's what I would make up for my late football games. But then it was time to come to reality. I had to come back to North Dakota. And I had decided in 2012 that I was going to not work anymore for my boss. His name was Dennis Helgeson, if anybody knows him. And when I came back, I started the pretzel world, which I was going to help my husband as a full-time gopher, help him. But I went into the pretzel. That was my long retirement, as I call it. Wasn't very long. But after many discussions, we started looking up, seeing if we should do this as a business. But one of the first things that I needed to do was find out what all the different things there was. In Arizona, I could just register my home, no problem. $75 for a whole year. I was set up. Nobody came to my home. But in North Dakota, a little bit different. You needed a commercial kitchen. And so Sean at the Velva grocery store, and we can show them next two pictures. Whoops, well, we'll do this one. Velva, that's where we ended up. We have a population probably around 1,300 and 29 miles from Velva. The next Velva grocery store is where I started, in their little kitchen back there. And I'll tell you what, it was tiny and it was hot. But anyway, and this is the building that we did buy after we knew that things are going to go, but we'll go on to, but the grocery store came, and I was at the grocery store for 8 months. And then I started that at the end of October to the beginning of November of 2012 to have our own commercial kitchen. And with that, I mean, that was an old mechanics building. When I brought First District out there, health unit in Minot, to come out there and say, what do I do with this? And he goes, oh my God. Well, be creative, Doc. Okay, sure. So I was creative. And when I showed him what I had done with that first part of that building, he just went, wow. I mean, it sparkled. So it was good. But our first Pride of Dakota show was in May of 2012. And this is where we found out sampling was everything. That people actually dug into their back pocket or into their purse, and they actually gave me money for something that I enjoyed doing. We went, wow. And that's where we started going. One of my big problems was getting pretzels. And I'm going to go from the beginning and kind of end it out here, but it was expensive, as you know, buying retail product. And the only place that I could find this product after doing many research of buying Spinzel butter pretzels was that it all ended up that it was out of Pretzels Inc. And they did not want to sell me a little bit. It was 6 pallets. Well, one pallet was 720 pounds. Oh, what the heck am I going to do with that many pounds of product? I mean, what do you do with it? I finally convinced, his name was Tony, out of Pretzels Inc., to send me 2 pallets. That was a lot of pretzels. I didn't know what to do with them either, but I did get rid of them. But Randy and I went into town to pick up these 2 pallets. Well, you know, by the time we got them on our pickup, we thought, oh crap. You know, we had ratchets and all this kind of stuff. But guess what North Dakota has? Wind. And here, this shrink wrap off of that was just rolling down on 52. I swear to God. I mean, it was like, oh my God. Another thing was getting the pretzels. We had a very tough time with our supplier. And I know this sounds so bizarre, but the pretzels that we got weren't always of the best quality. Our bakers were fabulous, picking out, trying to get rid of. I think we got the bottom of the barrel most of the time because we were not large enough. Volume talks. That's all I can say. And during our time, we tried with 2 different pretzels factories that's what they do for a living, to try to duplicate what Pretzels Inc. did, and we failed both times. 2 full years that we tried doing that with 2 different factories, and we never did come up with what Pretzels Inc. does. So whatever they do, they're pretty special. Another thing, Randy and I, how do you sell our product? How are we going to get this out? So what we did was we took a map of North Dakota, Farmers Union Senexes, any town that had a population over 1,000 people. We started sending them sample boxes. I did as much as I could afford to, buy and do, and what I could do. And I made sure I called them, made sure they didn't want to buy large amounts because they didn't know if they could sell them. But at the end, they did sell, as we all know how this grew. And, but I did whatever they wanted. But the big thing that I did was, in every box, I sent them a gallon bag of bulk pretzels to be able to share with consumers, to be able to sample at all times, because we knew that worked from previous things that we had done. My first distributor, I found out from him from our farm insurance agent, and he was starting up. He did milk products. He was out of Mandan. I met him many, many times by the cemetery on Highway 83 and State 23 and filled up my Buick 88, and I gave him everything I could do. And he just started distributing them out. Okay, we should be back, I think. There's how I did my boxes. This was one of our first shows that we did. I did a to-do list to make sure that I would contact each retailer and my one distributor. That wasn't too tough, but to make sure that I kept a good relationship with them, making sure that they had enough product, if it was getting low, that I'd replenish them, and just having good communication with everybody was a major plus. And besides going with the Senex Farmers Union, I went to Pride of Dakota shows. I did other trade shows. The news spread, and the only reason that news spread was because of consumers like you spreading the word, having me ship out boxes of pretzels out to everyone. I mean, was no one better than people talking and spreading the love of Dot's Homestyle Pretzels. Another great asset we had, you probably wondered how come we got into Ace Hardware. Well, I had a rep there that believed in me so much, and we had so much good times together. But when he asked me to do sample bags, I cringed. Of course, I did everything by hand. So it was a lot of hard work getting everything fulfilled for him, but it definitely was time well spent. But at the time, it didn't seem like it, but yes, it did. And I got into Ace is independent. These people that run Ace are all independent. They run their own store. They're so devoted to their own private store that they have. They're just such a blessing. But Kevin always had his slogan, and he always thought that pretzel should have had this one, but it was savor the flavor. That was always what he had all the time. It wasn't always easy getting accounts open. And I know that sounds weird, but I did a show at Grand Forks at a Pride of Dakota show. There was an 89-year-old that called me, and she goes, I bought a bag, now where do I buy it? And I said, well, you're out of luck. There is no store in Grand Forks. And I had tried and tried and tried, but she was determined. this 89-year-old that she was going to get it into Simonson's. And she went there, she would go there, hand them off. And did you get a phone call? Nope. We went through this at least 3 times and she asked, okay, get me more product and I'll take them to him. I did this at least 3 times. And finally, I was able to say, yes, I finally got him in there. I mean, just crazy. Next slide, our bags. These are even good. I had worse ones than this, but each one of these, you can see that they were, you peeled off, put on the label. The Pride of Dakota sticker, I had a gal that was doing them in Velva. She was a retired school teacher. She did over 1 million putting them on. She had everything marked down on a sheet of everything that she did. And the day that we finally got to our bags, I'm so afraid to tell her, I'm going to take the job away from you because I'm finally going to, not do this anymore. And she goes, oh God, thank God. I don't know how to tell you. But the one thing that I did on my bags was that I put my phone number on. It's like, what were you thinking? But it also got people to call me. But I did get a few, when people go out and they have a few drinks, sometimes they make phone calls. But the one thing that happened was I got a marriage proposal on one. And the one thing I regret is that I did not keep that. The next. Okay, this is how we used to do it. For over 2 years, we had our little stuff, and you would think the first district health unit would have a problem with this. No problems at all. We would weigh them, put them through this, have the bag underneath, just like here. That's how we did it. The way this employee was doing, this was our very first one. It's just like your bread, the bread bags. You just go like this. They have that little twist tie on there.
Yeah.
That's how we first did them. And then we went to this next system there. That seal gave it that better. But this is how we did it for first 2 years. Crazy how much we got done during that time. But I mean, it did work. We decided to upgrade the next bit. Whoop, I think we're missing one. Nope, that's Arizona. Is there another one back? Must be, okay, we can go to, not that one. That's how they were hand bagging there. You got the weighing. This one here is similar to one that we have in North Dakota. I'll just put it that way. That's how we upgraded. There's a spout that came down here and you sit on a chair and you just put the bag underneath there and it just weighs it. You watch, there's a little machine over here that shows you the weight, and then you would do it instead of each one being hand weighed, each and every one of them. And in fact, we were hand bagging till 2021. A lot of our smaller bags, if we had extra employees, they would hand bag just like what that other picture. That's what they're like here. They had excess people. This is Arizona, and they would just hand bag. These are 1 pounds that they're doing, but they would still continue so that we could keep up with orders. Okay. 2015 is when we opened up our Arizona plant. We took equipment from North Dakota and we put it to Arizona, and we upgraded in North Dakota. I didn't know if Arizona was going to be able to do, because it was all new territory to us. And in fact, we opened it up too soon. Arizona is, there wasn't as many mom and pops or the belief like we had in the Midwest. So I had fantastic employees in Arizona. So I didn't want to close and then try to reopen later. So what we did was we took semis and we held it back up to the Midwest. Not quite as cost effective as what we should have done. We didn't think about things a little bit as much as we should have, but it's the growing pains. And I also wanted one in Arizona because I went down there as snowbirds. The first time that I hired an office person was in 2016. That was the very first time. Otherwise, I was pretty much doing everything myself. And at that time, I wondered what I was going to do with her for 8 hours a day. But believe me, we did. Her husband to-be husband was out of Fargo. So she started that up as being accounting and our customer service, and it still is that as of today. The accounting and customer service is out of Fargo, North Dakota. In 2016, we went to the warehouse of Ace Hardware. That was a huge accomplishment for us. It really helped those independents that they could just go to the warehouse instead of us shipping everything, because we had to ship everything to those independent Ace. So it was a huge thing for us. There was a story of Ace that always comes to our mind, Randy and I, all the time. She was an employee and she was a buyer of 10 stores of Ace. She ordered 10 cases of the original pretzels because she had tried a sample. It was her first time. She told her boss what she had done, and he just went, "Are you flipping crazy?" In 2 weeks, they reordered. So pretty, and let's see, we can go, that was our Ace display when we went to Ace. It's pretty attractive. And these here, this particular model here is what they could buy with the kind of cute. We were throwing out a lot of product because they were broken. So we set up a system so that we could shake them out. And that's how come our pretzel crumble is as it is today. Now, these crumble bags that you have here are, they have more of the dot seasoning in these particular brands. When they have that, I think it says original seasoning up on top, and it has the rounded corners. Them are the new bags. They have more seasoning in each one. So it gives it a little bit more pop when you put it as a breading on pork chops, chicken, and fish. Okay, we started a slogan in October of 2017. I think you can go small time recipe, big time flavor. This was done by our employees at Dot's Pretzels. They came up with it. We made yellow shirts with that on, with the red lettering, sharp as can be, and they were so proud that they got to be a part of something. And that will be, hopefully they'll never change that slogan, because it is so true. So true. In November of 17, we opened up the Kansas plant. And I am sure every one of you know why we did that. More centralized, cut down our freight, because they were getting to be a big thing. And these are the ovens that we use. They're insulated ovens. Our first ones were non-insulated. These are the pans that they all have to be put on the pans, put into the ovens. From there, then they're taken off and put onto the racks. Very manual. The next, that there is, they all get dumped into here. There's a lift that goes up and they can just pour the totes right into there and goes up that conveyor and then goes into where you saw that other packaging machine. And then the next one, that's the mixers. They look like concrete mixers, but this is what we are still using today in North Dakota and Kansas and Arizona. And this is how the bags come with the seasoning pre-mixed. And this here is the oil and the stuff. It looks really kind of gross, but gives you what the taste is today. The morning of our grand opening, we had a meeting with our sales rep from Pretzels Inc. And oh, he was just happy as a lark at that meeting. And we're telling him, hey, we need more pretzels. So he says, well, let's set up another meeting for after the grand opening at high noon that we had. And we said, sure, no problem. Wish I would have said no at that particular time. When he came back with us, he went like this on the table with sheets, gave us a 17% increase in our pretzels because he could. We had no one else to buy the pretzels from, and they knew that. And we'll go into that a little bit further down. Next on the thing is for human resources was our best thing that we ever did was to hire their company out of Fargo, Pro Resources, to take care of employees. They were, you can about imagine how many factory workers that we had, all the different types of people that there was. Loved every one of them, I can say that, but there's also issues with with certain ones. How's that? And they could handle that better than what I could, instead of trying to do everything. The first time, okay, I had my full-time office person. The next time I hired marketing finally. I hired a part-time one the fall of 17. And that was basically just to get him to get all my notes organized, because I had notes galore of people that wanted to buy pretzels. We just could not handle more. And so he got everything organized in the spring of 18. We hired him full-time. And then I also hired a supply person to start handling all the different things that are needed for the pretzels, you know, all the oils and the boxes. And you can well imagine how many things there are to organize. And I finally did that. But in August 28 of 18, we met with our pretzel supplier, Pretzels Inc. At that meeting, we met with his team and the people that they had a Pete Rock, which is a venture capitalist that was going to be buying them. And the venture capitalists at that time, they asked us what our biggest problem was right before we go into a meeting. And I said, well, we can't get pretzels. And his expression on his face was, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, here we are, pretzel, that's home style pretzels. And here's the pretzel company and we couldn't work. But after a full day of negotiating how many pretzels we really wanted and negotiating that 17% price increase that they did to us, we did come to an agreement at the end of the day. We started out at 8 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock that afternoon. Contract did not change. We did not buckle down at all. We just said, this is what we need. And they did. It was a very hard day, just trying to get what you need to make your company grow. With that, we signed an operating agreement with RDO, which you know that they were our strategic partner. We signed that on August 31st because I did a handshake. They went into that meeting with Pretzels Inc. and helped us get that contract. I could have backed out, but a handshake is a handshake and you go with that. With that, Dots Pretzels had to give up a lot of my ownership. I mean, big time, to get what we needed. But when you think about that, there's many other things that could have happened to us. We could have lost everything because we only had the one supplier and we didn't have a contract to get what we needed to grow. And they could have just put us right off the street. So it seemed like the wrong thing to do, but yet to grow Dots to be what it is today, that's what we did. And RDO was able to put the squeeze on them, or whatever you want to say. I know Ronnie was on one side and I was on the other side. This is much a bigger table than what we were at that day. But he threw down his papers. My hair went flying. And I thought, oh my God, you know, what are we getting into here? But with that, we also we're able to get our Dots pretzels in the USA, all 50 states. So that was a great accomplishment at that time. In the winter of 2018, never thought I was ever going to have to do something like this because I had no idea what I was doing. I wrote the first HACCP program that I had. And you would not believe what our HACCP program is now. We are safe and SQF plants in each one of them. Our scores are over 90%, which is absolutely excellent. Even on surprise visits, they have gone over 90%. So you know how safe our plants actually are. Quality and safety has always been number one at our factories, but this year really proves that we did what we needed to do to make everything great. And with the SQF, we needed to do that to be able to get into the bigger distribution places like Kroger's, Walmart, all that. You need to be have food safety. They don't want to have to, you don't want recalls. But the SQF kind of, you have to dot your I's and cross your T's on everything that you're doing. Okay, next. This is my R&D. In 2019, I felt I had set up a very great team. We had the right structure, the right level, which meant I was going to step down because I didn't feel I had that.
Sometime tomorrow, the school cyber bully protocol. You can call me back at this number 701-570.
So I went out looking for a new CEO. We found that person. So my role then was R&D, the social media. I did the trade shows. I was still on the Dots Pretzel board. So it kept me kind of busy. But stepping down, I needed to make sure I carried out 5 things after my research of figuring out, okay, I was CEO. Now I'm putting myself down as a founder. And this is what made me feel okay with everything. The passion for the product, the professionalism, the versatility, the engagement, and the authenticity. And I was able to do that, feeling better about the whole thing. But these are my little mixture that I use, my little weighings, because you have to have everything by the grams, because I do small batches. Great cookie sheet and spices. And then we're just part of my spices that I have. Okay. As a founder and owner of Dots, I've learned that the employees make up your team. And I wish everybody would always remember that as being an owner. Employees make your team. You have to listen to them, communicate with them, and respect them. And as I said before, safety and quality are number one. We stress that we are a gourmet product. When you say that you're a gourmet product and you charge what we were charging, you have to give that. You can't give crap product. And there is a lot of love put into each bag, as you can tell here. Each one is hand. And we used to laugh at me. My bag, I would go like this. I said, that's your love. That's your love. But you gotta be able to get it into them bags and into that. So, okay. In 2020, we opened up the Egerton plant. And that plant is more automated. We can go, this here is when it was being built. Then the next, this here is the ovens that the product goes through. There's two of them. They're side by side there. And then the next one is the mixer. This is where the Slurpee, we call it the Slurpee, is right here and it goes down and the pretzels come from here, go into here and they tumble. And it's automatically all done. Let's see, there should be one more, I think. That's our warehouse. Believe me, when I walked in there after that, I thought, oh my God. But we've always had the thing that we never had enough pretzels on hand. We're trying to get enough that we can have like a 3-week supply so that we're not always cramming, trying to get the next order filled. There was one Christmas, I had 2 bags left, 2 bags at my North Dakota. Oh my God. We had our Christmas Eve with my family. And believe me, the next morning they were all working. we had to get some product going again. I believe in this totally. Partners are huge that you have. Each partner that we did have gave us the next level to everything that we did. Okay, the next thing, logo. Very important. This was our very first logo that we had. Very, very first. Then we went with the ball diamond. That's what I call it.
Right.
But the reason we went to the round, you can make the logo bigger on your bag. Very little difference, but it makes a huge difference because you want that to stand out at all times. And we pushed our logo big. We pushed that we were from Velva, and we also pushed Pride of Dakota. And we did that each and every time. But the reason for the round, I couldn't believe that they were going to be doing that. And they go, and my marketing, that's where my guy came. He just said, we can make it bigger, Dot. It'll show up more. And I went, I'm sold, I'm sold. So that's what we did. The next thing, and this is really surprising, we grew 8% per month. From the time that I started to the time I left. I like to see what the next group does now. If they can double like what I did each and every year. That it was amazing. And it's amazing how we kept just, well, the ups and downs of the roller coaster ride, but we kept it going. Another thing I always stress to my North Dakota team, they definitely always laugh at me every time I say baby steps. But it was baby steps each step of the way. They may seem kind of large sometimes, but we always did baby steps. I had a pros and cons. Managers would come and say, hey, or even employees, the pros and cons, write it down, put that on a sheet of paper, your pros of a thing that you want to propose to me and the cons. And at the bottom, it tells you what to do. And another thing, projects that we had, they don't always work, even when you do the pros and cons. But everybody makes mistakes. And you go on. You just learn off of them. That's the biggest thing. Learn from your mistakes because everybody makes them. Well, we had the Mr. Dot bar after my hubby. And they were starting April 19. They were made out of the broken. North Dakota was the only place that could make that special, the size to fit into the machine that they had that we could do it on. But North Dakota was the only one. But I heard from Hershey's that they're going to discontinue, which doesn't really surprise me because Hershey's is candy. Hopefully they'll just come out with a better one. Other top questions that always came, new flavors. We always stressed addictive, which I know is a bad word, but we wanted them unique. So when I stepped down, I had a little more time to do R&D. Before that, I really did not have the time to do that. So this gave me time to come up. And the first one we did was spring of 2020 was the Southwest. Spring of 21, we came up with the crunchy cheese curl. We wanted to do the puffs because I think they're even better. But the thing there was weight. My new CEO went, need more volume, need more weight. Puffs are not going to be it. So the cheese curls did it. And we did want to be, I know I'm not supposed to use Frito, but we did not want to be fried. We wanted to be baked. So there is a difference on the texture that people are used to the crunchy Fritos cheese curls. Ours are not done their way. They're done our way. To be different, of course. Spring of 21, we came up with honey mustard. And the only reason we came up with another new flavor is because of consumers wanting more. People nowadays want more choices. So we came up with that. I was at a meeting at Kroger's. And we were at a nice little table. And they said, hey, can you do a chickarron flavor? And I went, I never had a chickarron. Honestly, I had not had one. And I said, of course, I'll work on it. Had to go to the store, find out what a chickarron, and then to learn how to do that. But what you do when you have a chickarron is that you put them in the oven and you get them sizzling. The seasoning, when you put on, stays onto it. So anybody can take a plain chickarron, put on your own fabulous seasoning that you have, and you can do that. And you just flip them, do it again, get the temperature up where this is it, throw that on. Works wonderful. Maybe I wasn't supposed to say that, but what is so good? Yeah, that's what I think too. I had over 550 employees that I had when I stepped down. And we are also doing 1 million plus pretzels per week. Pretty amazing. I can't believe it, and I was in it. Consumers. Next slide. This is from a consumer that had hoard all his bags. And one day he had to send me this. But you can see how many changes that we had done during the time. Could not afford, you can pick up the very first ones. And we just kept improving. And because of improvements, guess who was telling me all that? Consumers. Always telling me, hey, you need to do this. They're poking through that little salt. Can't imagine what that little salt on that pretzel does, but I'll tell you what, it puts little holes in. And so we just kept improving. Retailers told us, them first bags, they ain't gonna make it into the fancier stores. No way are they going there. Get a better bag. We listened to everybody that was talking to us. And I'm glad everybody complained. I mean, it was good. Complaints are good. You listen to them. I didn't want anybody being mad at Dots. I mean, you know, that is not the way it's supposed to be. And the next one, distributor. They did this on their own. They did this on their own. I mean, it's amazing what people do for you. Just unbelievable. And yes, getting down to the end here, 12/14, I sold. It was not my decision, but as I told you before, my ownership was where it was. I wasn't ready to retire yet. I know I'm of age to retire, but it is what it is. Our partners wanted out. And I feel that my partners wanted out because how do you keep the same record as what we were doing? Pretty tough. And you have to get that more corporate. There is no other way around it. And I just feel maybe that's not what they wanted. But when Hershey's bought us, they were the best of what we had thrown at us. And I was glad that they came out at the top of what our partners wanted. But it was also very smart of them to buy Pretzels Inc. I wanted to do that, but I was didn't get what I wanted. But that's what I thought we should have done. And that's what Hershey's did. So I felt kind of, I felt good that I had thought that way, you know, that I was thinking just like they were thinking. Hershey's did offer me to go with them, but as the founder, I needed to carry out those 5 things again. And that contract did not do that for me. It was 15 pages. I was going to work 10 days out of a whole year for them. It'd been 10 long days, but it would have been 10 days. Doing all that social media, doing all the filming, all that kind of stuff. It seems like it should be a piece of cake. It's very tiring, but they were going to pay me very well. But my lawyer, when I showed him the contract, he just told me on a Friday afternoon, he said, you do some soul searching over the weekend, Dot. What does that tell you about what that contract was? I didn't do it. But they are letting me do this and they do give me samples, so. Yay for them. I have to brag up my hubby, Randy. He's not here with us today, but he was my right hand. He was the one that I bounced stuff, good and bad. He was my rock. He went through my crazy adventure with me. It was a roller coaster ride. There's no doubt about that. But there was a lot of good things out of everything. I got to meet a lot of new and interesting people, the employees, my retailers, my distributors, hold them close to my heart forever. I hope with this adventure in my life that you learn to build a great team. Listen to your team. Listen to your consumers, your retailers, your distributors, and being able to communicate with your team, your consumers, your retailers, distributors. Keeping everyone informed. Tell the truth, even if it's bad. Do more listening than talking, and keep your line of communication open. It'll open up big things. It didn't hurt that Dot's Pretzels tasted great, but it didn't hurt to have a lot of hard work hours in this either. And yes, I was 100% committed, probably 110. It was my baby. One of the hardest things that I had was to trust people. But I learned after time that I had employees that were just as devoted to Dot's Pretzels as myself. I feel that I treated my employees like family, and I wanted to treat them like I wanted to be treated. I respected them, and I feel I did that because I worked with them side by side. When somebody didn't show up, I'd be on that machine just as much as anybody else. And then it was always a competition, who could do better? Them or me. And me being competitive, I worked hard at that. But with the automation, a lot of that has come from the employees because they have worked on the lines, and a lot of them have put in a lot of input for the automation that we came up with. I told Teresa this, so I'm going to tell you this. When the cold days come, you know, and you don't know if you're going to be able to get out, and you don't know if you bought enough Dot's Pretzels, put one in the freezer. You will be amazed what the taste is. I think the original even gets better and gives you more butter taste. Savor that flavor on that. Okay, we'll go to the next here. The fun things that we did. This was at a North Dakota picnic just this last year. My AZ team, they got it all together and said, hey, Doc, can you come? I said, of course I'll come. They got it all together, got to meet a lot of the North Dakota people, and they just had fun. You can tell they're just smiling, and that's the way they were. And this was something, the next one's fine. I did this a lot. Giving out, it didn't matter if it's Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, sending out, talking sometimes I call, sometimes I do the email, sometimes I mail. It just kind of got mixed up. But this is what I did to show our appreciation. It's such a small little thing, but means a lot. I have goodies, so please, Hershey's gave it to me. Hey. This is I'm taking more home. I don't want to take it home with me. I have Pam, she's a good friend of mine, and she was babysitting her little granddaughter this week. So Cameron, you say hi, Cameron.
Hi.
Anyway, she came along today, which is great. She'll hand out to you. She'll love to do that too for you. And I guess that's the end of my presentation. Is there any questions?
I'm just going to say, if you're on the live stream and want to put a question in the chat, we will follow up with that. But we have some questions here.
So how secret was your recipe, and did you have to like protect it somehow?
Okay, at the beginning, all the employees knew it. They did. I never even thought anything about it. But we do have a company now that puts it all together. And all they have to do is measure the oil, put in them seasonings, they whip it up, and away it goes. So new employees, they have no clue. But for the first, I'm gonna say 4 years. Everybody knew.
Did you ever worry about someone else taking that or starting something else? Did you ever worry about someone trying to be Dots 2.0?
You know, I think they saw how hard I was working. I don't know why anybody would want to do that. Honestly.
Well, I would say $1 billion from Hershey. Hershey might be why you might want to do that.
But you know, at one point, my husband and I talk about that till 18. I'll tell you what, we almost lost everything because it was to that point. Really, really, we didn't take anything out till that time. Not a dime. Everything went back into that. It was a good thing I was retired, and I was not going to put the farm up for sale because we worked too hard for that. And that's why we took RDO. They had the deep enough pockets to make Pretzels, ink, and peat rock. Listen.
We have a question on the chat about who were your business advisors?
My partner. I'll just put it that way. When we started, we had his first cousin and wife. That's who I made up them bags for. But we kind of outgrew them. And then I went for another one. He was from Max, North Dakota. He brought in a lot of insight, but it's just like me. I was trying to grow and learn as much as I possibly could. And I mean, every partner I had brought something to the table. The first one, like he knew a lot of retail, which was great because that helped me there. But for the physical work, they weren't there to do that. The next one had more expertise because he had worked at different, like Cargill. He had more food knowledge and stuff. But after that, he got to his level that it didn't work anymore. So we paid them off and went to the next. That's how we grew. It was giving up and doing.
Brenda Richmond from the live stream wants to know what you know now that you wish you knew in the beginning.
Everything. I absolutely knew nothing of food. So, I mean, when I wrote that HACCP program, boy, that was such an eye opener to me of all the things that we weren't doing, but we were still, I mean, my place was squeaky clean, but nothing to what, all the different stages that there are now of what they have to do to make it SQF. I can't even describe all of that because I wasn't involved in that part because I kind of stepped down right after that. So, but And we have safety, we have safety people in there. I mean, that's their job. That's all they do. They're testing product and doing this. And I mean, it's just crazy. I would love to see all of that right now. Because I'd have time to look and see what I wasn't doing that I should have been doing. I know they always say, look up, look down. You always got this always clean, but it's up here and down here that you don't. And that's where the inspectors look. They look up, they look down. They don't look in the middle. Do not, because they know you're gonna have that clean, because you see that every day. In fact, the Arizona, they had SQF, and one of them saw a spider come down. And they go, oh God, they were just panicking. But you know, stuff like that's gonna happen. And I mean, they detoured that inspector. I thought, oh my God. But they got a 99%. And I had special little shirts made for him, even though if I wasn't with dots anymore, I made up 99%. I was so proud of them. I mean, that's a wonderful score, even though they had that spider.
Do the students have any questions?
I'm actually going to school for engineering, and so the question I had is, were the machines that you put in your factories, were those, did those have to be custom built, or?
The ones at Egerton
Okay.
are. They were special. When I did start that automation part, when I went into the automation part, when we okayed it, was a miniature. It was just probably a room about this size, and they had miniatures of this working that they had done. And but this, I mean, that mixer, I think there's probably that much more left to that mixer. I mean, I didn't even 3/4 of, I mean, that's how big this stuff is. I mean, it's huge at this Egerton plant. But yes, we have engineers that are doing, helping with those manufacturers that do that. He, in fact, the engineer that we have that helps build this stuff with them suppliers, he was my plant manager, was not his cup of tea. We got him into doing this, and oh my God, he blossomed, just blossomed so much. It was so, it's just so uplifting to see that you could do something for somebody. I mean, he didn't like managing employees. It was hard for him, but you know, it got him in the door. But that engineering part, making these plants the way they are now, in Lenexa was our first one in Kansas. And that was all set up just like North Dakota, just a few more added things, but all by hand like that. And now they're only doing the honey mustard there, and they went automated. And they took all the ideas from Egerton, and he could tweak what he saw that needed to be done. I mean, just working with it and just finding out all the negativity, getting the positives to all that. I mean, it's making it a beautiful, beautiful plant. And a lot less that lifting. Every one of them boxes are 34 pounds. You do that you're saying 1 million, I'm saying 1 million pounds a week, and you're lifting all that. That's a lot of weight on the body, and many times over.
Any other questions for students? Okay, other questions from?
I've got a quick, just a marketing question related to the sale. And maybe you're not at liberty to say, and that's fine, but is Hershey's obligated to preserve that brand, or would you assume?
They wanted it for 5 years.
Okay, yeah, so they'll.
So I don't
continue.
know if they'll, I doubt if they change. I don't know why you would when
Wouldn't-
something's going that well.
exactly. Right, yeah.
Yeah, they have, I had to sign a 5-year They have a 5-year that they can use my pick,
I see,
do all that kind of stuff. They wanted me to come along, but,
yeah.
um, and it's still open that Hershey's may come out with something that's neat.
Sure.
I'm not gonna have somebody else tell me about my company telling me what to say.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I can't do that. I can do this because I know it's true to my heart. But to go up and say maybe something that I didn't want to say, no, not gonna do it. Not worth it.
What are your plans now? Are you thinking about starting a new business?
Been asked that a lot by the employees. They liked working for me. I just don't know what. I can't do sweets or salty. 5 years. So, I mean, they must have been a little bit afraid of me.
It's a great outlook.
Dot, I have a story that I want to tell you that I think would make you feel good. My brother got married in Colorado and he moved from Minot to Colorado and definitely missed home big time. And I was his best man. So I went down a week early and we stopped to get some cold beverages, Dr. Pepper and stuff. At the place, we were just gonna reminisce and remember, whatever. And when we went inside, lo and behold, Dot's pretzels are in there. And it was perfect for his week of remembering where he came from and stuff. And we were stunned, first of all, because we weren't expecting that. And it was also cool to see the brand represented with all the big boys. So I hope you feel super proud about what you've
Oh,
done.
I am proud.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't get teary-eyed today. I'm kind of surprised.
Oh.
Maybe I did enough at home. Just kind of going through, but I added a lot more than was on my sheet. So that's why it lasted a little bit longer. I hope that was okay.
That's great in all 50 states.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yep.
Maybe give her 5.
Did make it.
You did.
Yep, we did make it.
Do you know if they're gonna keep the Velva plant open? Is that a plan or?
Everything is supposed to stay the same for at least a year.
Okay.
I own that building. So I will be one of the first ones to know when they're gonna be. Which I hope, there's so much story there. If they're anything of Hershey's, it should stay. It really, really should. I went out to Hershey's when I knew that they were one of the top contenders and to find out what they were like. So I could, because otherwise I couldn't talk the way Hershey's if I did not know. But they do so much good with their profits that they make. They're truly a great company that way. They truly are. I just hope they do the right thing here. I know that Skinny Pop, the owner there, when they bought Skinny Pop, he called me. I've talked to him a couple of different times and they kept everything pretty much the same. So I'm really hoping that because it would be hard to take away the whole story because, we have, the states on there, Velva's highlighted, you got the Pride of Dakota on there, you're gonna have to take all that stuff off. And I just can't see why you change a marketing thing that we work so hard on and has been a success. I really truly cannot believe, even though I know the North Dakota plant is the most inefficient per bag, but big deal. It's a lot of good advertising. In fact, my accountant, my very first accountant, he just said, Dot, do you know how much you're giving away? Them gallon bags? And I said, what would it cost me to have a marketing guy? And then I have to watch him, have to see what he's doing. Blah, blah, blah. I just said, it's cheap. And it was good marketing.
So I'm curious, when it came to a point where, was it the board that decided you wanted to sell? Like, how do you bridge that conversation, or were companies reaching out saying there's interest there and that started the competition. It's not like you put out an RFP, right? So how does that
The board
happen?
decided that they wanted, I can tell you what they, RDO wanted to buy me out. Okay. And my first thing, didn't take me more than 2 seconds. I went, hell no. Probably not the way you're supposed to do that. But I wasn't quite ready for what they threw at me either. I just said, no, hell no. The next thing was, up at the next meeting, they were going out. And he said, well, you can say no. And I said, what good's that going to do me? I don't have the percentage to go over the board. I did not. And I'm not going to say that I wanted to do this because I did not want to do this. I think we could have went to more things. And if they think I'm going to not, they should know me from now. I tell the truth. Yeah, no, you don't give up your ownership. But then again, I might have ended up with nothing. And my husband and I talked about it. In fact, all my kids, we were all, what do we do? You put all this into this and then. So, there's like I say, it was a roller coaster. It's the best years of my life, besides Velva and all the kids. Because I truly enjoyed watching my kids all the time. But then this came and that was the next part. Now I got a void and I'm trying to, but I just think that there's something to be learned here. Listen, communicate, keep open communication with everyone. Trust is hard. Trust was really hard for me. But I honestly can say, and if I can't say it, I'm not going to bring it up, but I have employees to this day that are so devoted to DOTS. It's their life. Yeah, they don't like that I'm not around. I can't go to the plants. I can to North Dakota because I own that building, so I can make a sneak peek through. But the other ones, I can go into the waiting room, but what's that? That's nothing. It's the action of everybody doing. It's the fun part. Not sitting in a waiting room. Yuck. So it's not fun going. It's not fun going. I like just to sit behind the machine if I could. Maybe I should just.
Any other questions from anyone? If not, Dot, I'm sure is going to be hanging around here, so please approach her. She's happy to talk to you.